Hey parents, Dr. Brian here at Dallas Synergy Chiropractic, and the reason I'm sending you this video is because at some point in time you'd signed up for ADHD, anxiety, autism workshop with me, sometimes called the Neurostorm workshop, and you missed it for whatever reason, or maybe you had a spouse who you wish could have made it, and so I'm just shooting you this short video, and we're just going to talk about real briefly what I talked about in there. Okay, so there's a couple key things that we need to look at, okay, and what we do in this office and how we help these kiddos. Okay, the first one is it's called primitive. They're called primitive reflexes, and what they are essentially programs in our brain that are needed. Some for just the birthing process and eating, other little things that we need just to survive, right? And so what happens is a couple of different things can happen. Actually, one, kiddo can be born without the reflexes, so this is important. That's why we do reflexes on newborns. We need to know, do they have these reflexes? The other side that we see, and this is common really, and we can't tell later on if they had them and lost them, but what we'll find out is we'll see some kiddos who have retained reflexes, and they can be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, even older sometimes. And these reflexes, they're programs, and they should be gone by the age of 2. And these programs are still on. They're running in the background. And as your brain matures, what happens is your brain should be shutting down those reflexes. And when it doesn't, you retain them. That's what they're called, retained primitive reflexes. And when you retain these reflexes, your brain is still in that primitive or less mature state, and thus you might be 10 or 11 or 12, but you act like you're 1, 2, 3 years old. And so we'll see kiddos like that. So our kiddos with anxiety or emotional difficulties, a lot of times we gotta look at those reflexes just to see, are they stuck on? And sometimes these reflexes can be turned back on. So let's say they get turned off, it functions properly, but you got kiddos that are playing football or soccer and they take a hit to the head. These reflexes can be turned back on. And if we don't turn them on, then they'll struggle academically, socially, and it just kind of creates this whole neurological issue. So reflexes are number one. Number two, so there's essentially a cascade of different events that can happen, but what we're seeing are a lot of kids are having head and neck injuries, some from C-section or traction at birth. Chet, our son, had the cord wrapped around his neck, and so he had that traction, so we witnessed it firsthand. Sometimes it's just falls or traumas afterwards, 2, 3-year-olds jumping off of whatever else, couches or whatever they jump off of, right? And what happens is when their neck or all the joints in their spine get locked up, it's called dyskinesia, but what happens is all the surrounding receptors change their input to the brain. So what happens is you have all these little receptors around the spine, okay? It's collecting data, where we are, what we're doing, all of this stuff, and it sends a signal to the brain. Now this is very, very vital. The brain actually requires and needs motion. It's stimulated by motion. But we can have two different kinds of input from those joints. We can have too much, right, where the brain is overwhelmed, anxiety, ADHD symptoms, or we can have the opposite, where we're not getting enough, depression, just struggling to also pay attention, right? They're just not getting enough. They're not keeping their brain stimulated enough. So we have hyperstimulation or decreased stimulation, and it can be all sorts of symptoms in between. This can also lead to emotional things too. You have a kiddo's brain who's being constantly stimulated, and then they're put into a social situation and they can't handle all the background noise or input, and the brain just can't process this all at, and do it all at the same time. So that's very important. Then we have hypo, and these people, a lot of times, they retract into themselves. They're not very good socially. The brain's not being stimulated enough to really interact with other individuals. So we have that locked up joint called dyskinesia, leads to what's called disafferentation, which really is just altered input. And we know that altered input equals altered output. And that's why we'll see, social issues, we'll see social interaction issues, we'll see academic issues, we'll see all sorts of behavioral issues, because the input from the spine and all those receptors back there is altering the output from the brain. So this is very vital. We need to look at that, because we're finding kids who are phenomenal kids, But, in school, the teacher is saying they don't pay attention, or their behavior is unacceptable. Their emotional outbursts are, just troublesome in the classroom. They're troublesome at home. But a lot of these kids, because of either retained reflexes or that altered input, really aren't in control of their emotional outbursts or their ability to pay attention. They have junk or altered input to the brain, and so they get altered output. So these kids are stuck. They're stuck in this, I don't know what to do, and they don't know how to handle all of this. And unfortunately, we're seeing so many parents who don't know this information. I like to put the input, it's like you are what you eat, right? If you eat junk food, junk health sort of deal, right? We all know that you are what you eat. It's the same thing. If you have junk information coming from the spine, from those receptors back there, you're going to get junk output. So you need to alter those, calm that system, re-regulate that system. And so then we go from a fixed, stuck joint to altered information. That altered information can do something that's absolutely vital. It's called dysautonomia. And this is the part of the nervous system that regulates our stress response. That includes hormones and other things. And so what we're seeing is kiddos who, and sometimes it's dysautonomia leads to that fixed joint and altered input, and sometimes it's that fixed joint altered input that leads to this dysautonomia. But either way, we're seeing dysautonomia. And what this means is their body's response system, okay? It has two modes. It's got the fight or flight mode, and it's got the rest relaxation mode. And their brain and body are not able to regulate that system. For instance, this is what we tell people. It would be like if you had this, let's just say you had this awesome car, let's say Corvette, Ferrari, whatever your car is. Maybe you're not a car person, but just think of an awesome car. And let's say it's just like pretty much the color you want, the interior you want, all this stuff. But the gas and brake, they don't work that great. And for some odd reason, we don't know why, but they just go on and off regularly. We have bouts of just a lot of, the gas is just on for no reason. Maybe you're at a stop sign, the gas is going, the engine's revving, and you're just trying to hold on to the brake. Maybe there's other points in time where you're at 635, but the brake is on and you're trying to get the gas to go and you're jamming on it. And how stressful would that be? It would be terrible. But it's an awesome car, right? So we have this awesome kid in this, just an awesome kid, and their gas and brake pedal are not working. And so they're being put in environments, 635 with a gas and brake pedal that do not work. And they're being asked to navigate the traffic on 635 like all the other kids, or they're just asked to navigate it because it's life, right? And so they are weaving in and out of traffic, or attempting to, and they can't do it. 635 in and of itself already is like going to war in traffic. You have to weave, you have to be, there's just so much going on at 635. There's always an accident on 635. And so you're always having to be on high alert at 635. Now you're on high alert, but your gas and brake pedal do not work, and you cannot function in that traffic. How stressful would that be? Unfortunately, the answers we're being given is they need to be medicated, and in my opinion, really what you need to do is figure out if you have a gas pedal that's stuck on, or a brake pedal that's stuck on, or maybe some sort of weird in between the two, and you need to correct that. If you have a gas pedal, which is most of our ADHD and anxiety kids, let's regulate that gas pedal. If you have the opposite, maybe they're anxious, or maybe they're depressed from a brake pedal always being on, fix the brake pedal. Don't throw away the car. Don't put jet fuel in the car. Don't add oil to the car. Fix the pedal that's broken. Fix the pedal, fix the car. And so I hope this all kind of makes sense what I'm telling you. I gave you a lot. Basically, let me summarize it real quickly. Reflexes, they're programs in the brain. They're vital. They need to be on and then switched off as our brain matures. When they do not, these kiddos struggle. 2, locked and fixed joints lead to altered input to the brain, which leads to altered output, okay? That can lead to dysautonomia, and that's the part of the system that regulates how you interact with your environment, the stress, hormones, all this other stuff. That's so important for just living your life. And if you can't handle those physical, chemical, and emotional stresses, that system, is essentially pointless. It's like having a gas pedal on or a brake pedal on and trying to drive through 635 traffic. It's just a nightmare. Also, we have the opposite where that dysautonomic or that autonomic nervous system kicks on, and we have that disafferentation, that altered input to the brain and locked up joints. You ever see somebody walk around like this? Yeah, how do you think that input is affecting their brain? So that's what we talked about. And I hope in that real brief, 10-minute interaction with you, I hope this makes sense. I hope this helps you understand your kiddo better, because a lot of these kids cannot regulate their emotions. They don't know what else they can do, and the only option we're being given is medication. And I'm telling you, you have a car with a system that works. It's a beautiful car, but there's a brake and a gas pedal imbalance. And rather than replace the engine, because the engine's not the problem, or rather than giving it high-end fuel, because that's not the issue, fix the gas pedal, fix the brake pedal, help that body have solid balance. If you do that, so many of these kids just change right in front of your eyes. And so I hope this helps. Please let me know if it does. If at the very least you're like, oh my gosh, that just explains my kid, tell me. I want to know. I want this to be a benefit to you. I'm sorry that you weren't able to attend the workshop, but this is the quickest way of explaining what's going on with these kids, and I really hope that it helps you understand your kid, because I feel like so many of these kids, they come in frustrated themselves. On top of that, we have parents who are frustrated, and the parents aren't being told what's going on in these kids. And unfortunately, these kids are being told, there's something wrong with you, or, why don't you pay attention in school? Why can't you regulate your emotional, why don't you have any control of your emotion? When I was your age, we could do that. Or it's just misunderstood. And there's a system that's gone awry. And so my greatest hope is that, if nothing else, this video helps you understand your kiddo, what is happening to them, why they struggle, and what can be done to possibly help them. All right, if I can be of any help to you, please reach out to me. If this video is any help to you, please reach out to me. Just let me know. Email me, call me. Even if it's just, hey, I thank you, I understand my kiddo better, this video would be totally worth it for me. So if you have any questions, you can call me at 972-387-4700, 972-387-4700. You can also email me at DallasSynergyChiropractic@gmail.com, DallasSynergyChiropractic@gmail.com. I hope this helps. Please let me know.